Hello everybody, I am back with yet another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing and going into my final thoughts on an RPG that definitely has received quite a bit of hate from fans of the longtime franchise. The game came out in March of 2010, and we did have to wait quite some time for this game, but I think it was well worth the wait, and I'm glad I actually waited to play it because, now I can go right into the second one once I complete this. But that is none other than Final Fantasy XIII. I myself am loving this game. I seriously have very, very, very minor complaints about it, and there really is nothing about the game that I could say that I don't like, which may be surprising to most people because, as I said in the beginning, many fans that were anticipating this game were expecting, just absolute greatness, and that's not what they found. A lot of people complained about the story because it is incredibly convoluted. It makes it makes sense, but it is definitely complex. You definitely have to keep up with the data log and pay close attention to all of the cutscenes and make sure you understand each and every aspect of the story. Because if you don't and you aren't constantly following it and reading your data log, you just seriously won't know what's going on because it is so complex and there's so much going on. And the character interactions, there's so many different stories intermingled in between them that it's very difficult to follow. But I enjoy reading the data log and just taking the time to really kind of indulge myself and just get me in that atmosphere of the game and truly try and understand what is going on in the game. I'm going to go ahead and start discussing the story for those of you that may not know, for those of you that may have held off on playing the game, or maybe you're new to the RPG genre and you want to, possibly try this game out. So basically the story starts out on this floating continent of Cocoon. And, everything seems incredibly peaceful. It seems like, things have been going very well for, just about all of eternity until, news gets out that there is a evil fal'Cie. And the fal'Cie are kind of the inhabitants of Cocoon. The people there, they're kind of the protectors of all of the citizens on the continent of Cocoon. And once, word gets out that there's someone that's corrupt, a corrupt fal'Cie that may have relations with Grand Pulse, which is kind of the it's basically like if Earth was Grand Pulse. It's kind of like this evil setting. The moon where would be like Cocoon, where all these people are living and it's peaceful. If that makes any sense. But basically that's kind of how this game is set. So once word gets out that there's this evil fal'Cie, there's this event that's known as the Purge, which is basically getting rid of all people who have, basically the government on Cocoon have any suspicion that are possibly involved with, Grand Pulse, or they have any relationship with those people. And so that's kind of how all of these 6 main characters come together, or at least 5 of them specifically. Lightning, Sarah, who are sisters, and then Snow, who is kind of Sarah's husband-to-be, and then Zaz, who's the awesome black guy with a little baby chocobo in his afro, which is so awesome, and it's so adorable too. But anyways, he's on the train with Lightning as well, but he's more focused on helping his son and saving his son because his son has kind of been corrupt as a result of all this stuff that's going on. And then also Vanille and Hope, who Hope's mom actually joined the resistance movement with Snow, but she died under his care. So it's Hope's kind of goal and intention to actually kill Snow up until a certain point in the game. That's actually his intention, is to kill Snow because he feels that it is Snow's fault that his mother passed away during this resistance movement. But that's what brings these characters together, and the reason why they're on this Purge train specifically is because Sarah, Lightning's younger sister, is actually become an LC. An LC is like kind of the opposite of the fal'Cie, and it's also kind of, I guess, what you call corrupt, or maybe I guess corrupt is probably the best term to explain it. So that's what brings all these characters together. That's about as far into the story as I'm going to go because It gets beyond that. It gets incredibly confusing, incredibly complex, and I don't want to waste your time. But if that sounds interesting to you, you know, definitely give this game a look, or maybe go back to it if you stop playing it. And if you didn't, if you haven't played this and the story doesn't sound interesting, I think the next few things that I may talk about throughout this video may grab your interest, or perhaps if you left the game, you'll go back to it based on the things. All right, so the next thing I want to discuss is the battle system. One of the main praises of the game, a lot of people said, a lot of reviewers especially, reviewed the game very high because, graphically it's stunning, and musically the musical composition is fantastic. But the battle system specifically was something that people praised very much, because personally, I feel like it's the best battle system in an RPG I've ever played. I know I'm going to get tons of hate, and people are like, oh my gosh, Rusty, you are going out on an extreme limb by saying that. But, I'm fairly new to the RPG genre, so I don't feel it's too big of a statement from me. But basically, this command synergy battle, I believe is what it's called. And you basically, when you go into these battles, there are different paradigms, and you can customize these in the menu system at any point with the playable characters that you have in your party. And you can have 3 playable characters in your party at any one time. For a lot of the game, though, I would say probably the first 50% of the game, you're really only 2 people. And that changes, I'm not going to go into great detail about that, but a lot of times it's either you, I say you, Lightning and Hope, or Vanille and Zaz. For a great deal of the game, that's how it is. But later in the game, you have access to all party members, and you get to customize who you want to play as well as the leader in the party. But getting back to the battle system, you have different paradigms, and I believe there's 6 different paradigms that you can customize. And there are different classes within the paradigm. There's the Commando, which basically just has just main attacks. They just attack with their main primary weapon. No magic, just physical attacks. Then there's the Ravager, who uses magical attacks like fire, lightning, arrow, water, all of those magical enchantment things. And then there's also the Medic, who obviously heals with Cure, and also can heal you of status ailments, perhaps if you're poisoned, or you're stunned, or you're sleeping, or something like that. You can use this, spell called Usana, and kind of heal your party member of that ailment. And then there's also the Sentinel, Saboteur, and I have to look at my sheet here, Synergist. So the Synergist basically are magical enhancements to your party members, whether it be, it's basically just buffing up your character. Now the Sentinel shields your allies, so basically, if you're going against a huge boss, it is essential to have a Sentinel in your party, especially towards the end of the game, because some of the bosses deal just tremendous damage on one attack, so you have to have a Sentinel in your party at any one time. But the Sentinel basically kind of guards and puts a shield around your allies so that when they are attacked, they are not greatly damaged. Or they'll kind of draw the attention to themselves while they're casting that shield on themselves, so that the enemy will attack them, while the other party members can increase the chain gauge of the enemy while dealing, significant amount of damage. And then the Saboteur basically just weakens your enemies with, or attempts to with, like, kind of status ailments. So those are the 6 different fields that you would customize your party members based on the paradigms. And for each paradigm, you may have a different thing. You may have relentless attacks. So you have 2 Commandos and a Ravager, or 2 Ravagers and a Commando. And you want to really strategically kind of craft these different paradigms, because the main point of every battle is to stagger your opponent as quickly as possible. Now, for those of you that may not know or aren't familiar with what stagger is, basically there's this chain gauge on your enemy, and as you attack them, that gauge goes up. And if you're healing yourselves and you're buffing up your characters and you're not attacking, then that chain gauge goes down, or it just doesn't go up at all. So you want to try and have someone attacking the enemy at all times, if at all possible, or just switch to your healing commands and switch back as quickly as possible. But basically, once you stagger your opponent, they become weaker, and your attacks become significantly more powerful. So that's kind of your chance to really, really just tear down your character and really defeat them. And it becomes primitive once you're, going against the big bosses at the end of the game, because, I mean, they literally have, like, millions of HP. Like, millions. It's unbelievable how much HP they have. So the battles can last tremendous amounts of time unless you stagger your opponent, sometimes multiple times. And what's really kind of frustrating is that some of your enemies take forever to stagger, but you just have to be very consistent and persistent, and really kind of customize your paradigms, in a very strategic and smart way, so that you can learn kind of the patterns of your enemies, when to switch to, your healing commands, when to switch back to Relentless Assault, so that you can properly and defeat your enemies quickly, because you do get rated at the end of every battle between 0 and 5 stars, depending on how quickly you defeat your enemy, as well as just kind of your overall strategery, if you will. So I really, really like the battle system. I think it's the best battle system to date in a Final Fantasy game, in my opinion, and possibly in an RPG. But like I said, I'm very, very limited in the number of RPGs that I've played, so I can't really speak for everyone on that front by any means. Now I'm going to really quick touch on the leveling up system. Now, I haven't played Final Fantasy X, but I've heard the level up system is very similar to that, because I believe in Final Fantasy X it was called the Sphere Grid. In Final Fantasy XIII, it's called the Crystarium system. And basically, after every battle, except for when you're defeating your summons, which I'll get into in a second, you receive Christogen points, and CP for short. And basically, these points can be used to upgrade each of your character. And your character, as you progress through the game, you eventually unlock all 6 of the commands. But you use these Christogen points to level up, like, either the command, the medic, the ravager, the sentinel, the saboteur, and the synergist, based on your party members' specialty. So, for instance, Vanille, I focus on medic, because I usually have her in as, someone who's constantly healing my party members, whereas Fang, I focus on sentinel and command, because she's constantly buffing up my characters and acting as the commando, while, Lightning, I may focus on Ravager and Medic, because she's great at healing as well, but also, she has really great magic as well. So it really just depends on who the character is, but each one has their specialty, and you can kind of upgrade them, as such. But, I love the battle system so much, and I love just constantly grinding for like an hour or two, and then going back and going to the Crystarium, leveling up my characters, because I'll have like 50,000 CP, and it's just so much fun to see the little Crystarium thing go from each thing on the grid. If you've played the game, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm sure you're nodding your head in excitement right now, because it is so much fun to do that. And I honestly plan, once I actually complete the game, to go back and completely level up my characters. I know I'm looking at like a 70 to 80 hour game experience if I try to do that, but I'm more than willing, because I love the game that much. Which kind of brings me to the next thing. Well, actually, before I get into the music, I'm going to discuss the summons real quick. Throughout the game, you do come into contact with your summon, and there's usually something that triggers it. I won't go into detail, because that kind of spoils some of the story, but you do get these crazy summons, and some of them are unbelievably challenging to capture / defeat. And what's interesting is that you're not trying to kind of deplete their HP by any means. What you're doing is you're trying to fill up this little meter, which usually involves using like a sentinel and constantly debuffing them in order to raise that meter. And then once you do raise that meter to its fullest completion, if you will, you press the X button on the Xbox 360 version, and then it goes into a little sequence, and then you have defeated the summon. So it's really interesting, and then, of course, when you get to use the summons, it's really, really awesome, especially at one point in the game. I don't really remember what chapter it was on, but when Snow kind of comes back into the story and you get to use his summon for the first time, that was pretty freaking awesome. You guys know what I'm talking about. So really enjoy the summon system. Now I'm also going to go out on a limb here and say something that'll probably surprise a lot of people. For some, they may agree with me. But I feel that this is the best soundtrack in a Final Fantasy game. Prior to saying that, Final Fantasy, and prior to playing this, Final Fantasy IX, hands down, was my favorite soundtrack. Just unbelievable. I have the soundtrack, and it's fantastic. Nobuo Uematsu did unbelievably well composing that, and I believe he's even said that that's his favorite soundtrack that he ever composed. But I guess it's safe to say that that's my favorite Nobuo Uematsu album, or original soundtrack, because he actually didn't compose the soundtrack to Final Fantasy XIII, because he was working on the infamous, the wonderful, the irreplaceable Final Fantasy XIV, which is a piece of crap. I believe he was working on the main theme to that at the time, so he wasn't composing anything for this game. But he was supposed to compose the main theme, but he actually ended up not doing that because of his work on Final Fantasy XIV. Well, we all know how that turned out. But I'm almost glad that he didn't, because I love the musical score for this game. It is absolutely amazing, especially the battle theme. Just fantastic. Even just traveling the overworld, it's just very peaceful, and I love it. And the composer, I have it written down here because I would never be able to say this otherwise, and I'm still probably going to completely butcher it, but it is Masashi Hamauzu? I don't even know if that's right. You guys can correct me. Actually, please don't correct me, because I know I butchered it. But it's without a doubt the best Final Fantasy soundtrack in my personal opinion. I want to emphasize that. Put great emphasis on personal opinion. But I love it. So, guys, those are my final thoughts on this excellent RPG, in my personal opinion. I love it. And I cannot wait to see how the game unfolds. I'm currently 38 hours in, at the very end of Chapter 11. So for those of you that have played through the game, you'll know exactly where I'm at. I'm looking forward to seeing the end of the game. Please, guys, no spoilers. I will seriously just completely ignore your comment if you try and spoil the story for me. I've remained spoiler-free up to this point. I continue to do so until I complete the game. But I love it to death. Please, guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think of Final Fantasy XIII. And if you don't like it, actually, you know what? Just drop me a comment letting me know your thoughts on the game, and also your favorite Final Fantasy game. Whether that be because of the story, the soundtrack, the characters, both. Let me know. I'm really interested to hear what you guys think, because I've only played Final Fantasy IX, 13, Final Fantasy... Those are like the only numbered games I think I've played, is Final Fantasy 13 and 9. I've played parts of 7, but that's really it, I believe. I have 12, I have 8, I have 7, I have 6, I have 5, I have 4, I have like all of them, but I've yet to actually play them. So let me know what I should play next. I've heard Final Fantasy VI is definitely the one to go to, but let me know, you guys. Thank you for watching.